progressives among us have claimed that white privilege is the ball and chain restraining the black population from economic liberation. For background, the Oxford Dictionary defines white privilege as inherent advantages possessed by a white person based on their race in a society characterized by racial inequality and injustice. However, the Group Areas Act, Bantu Education Act passed laws as dehumanizing as they were, cannot justify a belief that South African whites are endowed with a white privilege consistent with the Oxford Dictionary definition. Bear with us. Reason being, a majority of white South Africans have an inherited advantage, not an inherent one. Inherent suggests that it is permanent, unalterable state, while inherited means that it is passed down from one generation to the other. Thus, Yetibe rejects the notion that the inheritance of assets such as farmlands and businesses somehow serve as a direct causative factor for black poverty. In saying this, no ignorance is given to our racial past, only an acknowledgement that modern-day South Africa is dealing with a class problem, not a race problem. To ignore this crucial distinction is to throw the white baby, blue-eyed baby out with the bathwater. In addressing the poverty, there are purposeful misidentification of whites as the perpetrators and not the government, which owns a significant amount of land, has shown them to be bad liars who have confused their envy for a virtuous compassion.
Historical context is vital to understand Africa's technological underdevelopment when compared to their Anglo-colonizers. This understanding of the pre-colonial African technological condition sheds light on modern-day Africa's economic struggles and stagnation, even when it does not serve as the full explanation. Motivated by the fact that history predates colonization and apartheid, showing that long before being colonized, Africans were a largely technologically stagnant people, serves as a reclaiming of our destiny and not a bashing of our forefathers. The various reasons for the development struggle will hopefully take the guilt of white liberals who go on platforms such as the Big Debate, biting their nails trying not to peel off the pale skin from their flesh.
Now, I think that white complicity, overall, we can look at and the responsibility to promote social justice in our country, firstly. But when we have two families, there are two families in this country, the Oppenheimers and the Ruperts, names we don't necessarily all know, who have as much wealth as 50% of our people. It's an extraordinary crime.
During their centuries-long trading encounters with Eurasian communities, Africans were introduced to technologies such as the wheel, but rejected to incorporate this innovation. Certain areas, such as West Africa, were characterized by a high number of slaves, and the continent at large had a problem of high ethno-diversity and isolation between the clans. According to Ralph A. Austin and Daniel Hedrick, these demographical factors linked strongly with culture, limited trade and technological advancement. British evangelical Christians such as John Wesley started to fight for the abolition of slavery on the basis that human dignity was God-given. This cultural revolution, instigated by Christians, led to the abolition of slavery across various parts of Africa. Labor substitution, industrialization, and education resulting from slave emancipation serve as one of the reasons behind technological development, thus leading to economic development. Africa's rejection of an advanced technological system was based on their conservative culture, leading to the retainment of a system intensively dependent on human labor and linear reciprocal motion. The scholars cite a familiar case in the form of local Nguni people. In the early 19th century, the Nguni faced land shortages. However, instead of intensifying agricultural production, opted for the intensification of their military front. This reflects a broader cultural inclination. Our culture at large and our approach to technology specifically is one of the reasons why we did not develop as quickly as the advanced communities of Eurasia. We found ourselves surrounded by a large Garden of Eden, and, as exemplified by the Bantu migration, would relocate when resources in an environment had depleted. Culture. This paralyzing conservatism, as we would like to term it, is not to be seen as an exclusively African problem. The religion-centered education of 20th century Afrikaner Calvinists led to them being insufficiently educated compared to their British counterparts. As per South African economist Johan Fourie, this lack of education led to President Greer endorsing a resin, wild man-red root, paraffin, and tobacco mixture as a cure for the 1896 cattle plague rinderpest. Furthermore, Boer farmers were scattered and isolated, similar to pre-colonial Africans. It is this isolation that made trade and interaction with new technologies difficult amongst Boer farmers. We have one consistent factor here: culture. The ideas, customs, and social behavior of a people or society, not race.
One of the real problems, and this is not peculiar to the United States or to any group in America, ethnic leaders, particularly leaders of groups that are lagging, are a major obstacle to advancement because their self-interest is in keeping their group isolated. And isolation has been tied in with poverty for all kinds of groups in all kinds of settings around the world.
Now, for this reason, we think black progressives have arrived at a more appropriate target by shifting their aim from white people to whiteness. As per the Nation Museum of the African American History Culture, whiteness refers to the way that white people, their customs, culture, and beliefs operate as the standard by which all other groups are compared. Like Adam and Eve, in refusing to accept responsibility for our own actions, we have chosen a life of death. Make no bones about it. The social justice movement is a bad religion. White privilege has become the appointed serpent of the social justice narrative. We have chosen to reduce whiteness to two characteristics: meritocracy and Christianity. Meritocracy is the hierarchical system where people accrue benefits based on their talents, abilities, and effort. In such a society, people advance based on merit. And merit should not be confused for an all-encompassing God. For attendance at hospitals should not be based on achievements. However, the selection of people who build the hospital should. Our reason for outlining meritocracy is because our government ironically attempts to reshape the socio-economic landscape of life by selecting the ones that get to succeed, such as the apartheid government, and not focusing on giving everyone the chance to succeed. Then they substitute meritocracy for equality. Now, Yedibe's presentation is directed towards the black progressives because they claim that there is a growing prevalence of elite black people who possess traits of whiteness, which confirms that what they mean by whiteness is beyond race but something much more cynical. The second point, Christianity. Nkosi Sikelel' Afrika. Christianity was introduced to South Africans by the colonizers. Their culture is centered around the Christian tradition, which Africans also have embraced. Today, these values of Christianity are the crumbling bedrock of our society. Therefore, before Christians proceed to clap when one states that they would like to eradicate whiteness from South Africa, then they should reflect upon their foundation. Nobody cares about skin color. The primary target is value system. What you hold as the good and the highest good informs your social structure. The white settlers carried guns on one hand and the Bibles on the other. Their definition of good and bad are Christian. And this was the standard on which other cultures were measured against, sometimes inappropriately. This Christian ethnocentrism that people want to vilify led to the abolition of slavery. This is the reason for human dignity as we know it today. The modern idea that cultures are equal is false and deceiving, for we can all agree, hopefully, that child sacrifice is bad. As we have outlined, white privilege does not exist anymore, but class privilege does. It is an inherent element of the world. Slandering class is to slander the hierarchy of competence that civilizations are based on. South Africa has a damaged class system, which was created by apartheid and exacerbated by a Father Christmas-like state. No inherent guilt may be handed to a specific group without cause. Ezekiel 18, the son shall not suffer the iniquity of the father.